blacks, Negroes, niggas, and niggas.
It's not enough to just hate the Asian store and burn them down and boycott them.
What started as a dispute between two teenagers at a high school track meet has turned into one of the most talked about cases in the country.
Yo, what it do? Welcome back to another episode of BUA. I'm your host, Heru Adamu. Here we talk business, politics, war, love, and everything in between. Tonight, we get into some very interesting topics on black life. When a young black life is lost, the conversation, it usually lasts a couple days. Then America moves on, the family doesn't move on, the community doesn't move on, the underlying problem, it remains the same. Killer Mike, he recently challenged people to think differently about violence against black Americans and whether we've actually changed anything despite decades of activism.
I was beat up by a lot of the stuff that I saw. In my lifetime, I've seen a black girl be accused of stealing an orange juice and an Asian woman kill her. Latasha, yeah. And I remember the world going crazy. And now as a 51-year-old man, I saw a black child, South Carolina, walked out of a store. When confronted, showed I don't have anything. Chased out of that store and shot in the back and killed by a population of people who, since immigrating to this country, have quietly built the number one or two, house incomes through having ownership of stores in our community. And nothing has changed. That man was let off the case, and it just gets difficult. It gets difficult because, man, we as a people, if the world is not going to treat us differently, it starts to turn into, well, like your therapist would say, what can you control? Just yourself. Where's my accountability in this? It's not enough to just hate the other person anymore. It's not enough to just hate the Asian store and burn them down and boycott them. And I do think all of that. I'm at a point now where I'm just like, enough. We can't fuck with y'all. Y'all don't fuck with us. And it's obvious. And we are put in a position by a bigger master to be taught not to fuck with each other. So you as the model minority always see us as beneath you. And yet you need us because you could never put a store in the master class's neighborhood. And if we won't unite against them,
we won't unite for ourselves.
Yeah, but if we won't unite, the Asians and blacks against the master class, then we can no longer fuck with y'all. Because it's just not working.
So yeah, very sad to see Killer Mike getting emotional here, but it's gotten to that point. For years we boycott this, boycott that, and it works. Look what we did to Target. They really felt that. They had to make changes, but it's not enough. It's just not enough. At the end of the day, if we don't own the institutions, then boycotting other people doesn't really matter, because just because we stop shopping with one community, then what are we going to do? We don't have places to go, corner stores to buy that's black owned. And we do, but we have to go far and wide to try to find these things. So we need more institutions. We need more black ownership. So it gets difficult because every time we have black ownership, they try to tear us down. But you can't give up there. You got to keep fighting at the end of the day. So the larger point is that the economic protests, they mean little to nothing at the end of the day. You really have to stand on business and not fuck with other communities at all. Not even a little bit. Not boycott, but permanently boycott them. Permanently discriminate against them. Like, you have to discriminate against them at the end of the day. Why are most immigrant businesses even in the hood to begin with? Because that's the uncomfortable part. Most of these immigrants, they haven't been able to set up shop in white communities because they have been redlined as well. And they have been indoctrinated to think that blacks are their enemy. White people are the most destructive people of all time. In the history of humanity, but they have other cultures believing that come to this country believing blacks are the problem. So in many cities, immigrants, they can't really get access to white proximity, so they have to set up shop in black communities, and blacks become the consumers. Cyrus Belton, this kid that apparently had a gun on him but was chased down for 130 yards and shot in the back, he wasn't carrying a gun because he wanted to kill Asians or protect himself from Arabs, white people, Indians, Latinos. He wasn't carrying a gun for that. He was carrying a gun because he likely wanted to protect himself against his own kind. Most black men are having guns on them so they can protect themselves from other black men. So we have to take that into consideration and really reflect on that. We don't go out and kill a bunch of white girls and white people, and we don't shoot up schools. We only really kill ourselves. So what gives another culture the right to shoot a young black boy in the back? Even if he had a gun, it wasn't to kill you. The tragedy is that this young man lost his life, and thousands of young black men are really worth less than a bottle of water in this current situation. But Charleston White said it one time. He hoped that we would go back to slavery because it would cause us to actually unionize and unify. So although I don't like this situation at all, it is causing black people to boycott, have a conversation about institutions, have a conversation about where we spend our money at. Because we're not just spending money with these communities, we're empowering these communities to have leverage over us at the end of the day. That leads us into the next segment about black fatigue. One of the most controversial, viral conversations happening online right now is black fatigue. Some people use it to cover for racism. Others use it to describe frustration for the negative, degenerate behaviors that are repeated amongst the black community.
What does black fatigue mean to you?
Well, black fatigue means to me, it's a collective tiredness of the culture, the condition, the behavior of black people currently today. We're seeing so much crime, so much instability. We're seeing the teen takeovers across the country. And mainly, when we look at black fatigue, this is something that black people have to deal with at the end of the day. It affects every other community across the country, but the crime and instability, the first people that has to deal with that, black people. Look at the predominantly black cities. I come from Detroit. Look at Chicago, Baltimore. Name any city that has a majority black population. It's aggressive to live there. And the black people who are doing well, guess what they do? They have to leave the community. They have to walk away from the community because they can't not exist in this unstable and chaotic environment. So that's pretty much black fatigue to me.
And one of the things you normally talk about is the 4 different types of blacks. Maybe it's good for the audience if they haven't heard it. What you call, I can't say it. You can say it.
Well, you can say it, but
I want you to say it.
Anybody can say it. And I love that video. I made that video, the 4 different types of black Americans. Originally, I made that on TikTok. And this is on I think my first or second TikTok. I've had 7. They've been all banned. I've been demonetized everywhere.
On TikTok?
On TikTok, yeah. I can't even go on TikTok and post anymore. So I make the video on TikTok. It got about 1 million views. It was 3 minutes long. And for a while, I've been neglecting to do YouTube stuff, get on YouTube. I've been mainly doing short form content for about 1.5 years. So I decided, you know what, let's turn this into a YouTube video. 5 minutes long. I post it on YouTube, gets about 500,000 views. Then Soft White Underbelly, they reach out to me. It's like, we want to talk about this further. So I reach out to them, and it gets another 500,000 views. But the channel that I posted it on gets banned. And this is, a reoccurring thing. I'm constantly getting banned, constantly getting deplatformed. But the 4 different types of black Americans, and I don't know if I can be uncensored. Can I be uncensored?
Go for it. Yes, go for it.
Blacks, Negroes, niggas, and niggers. And it's a hierarchy in the community.
Okay.
Got black people, hardworking, honest. They know exactly what they want. They know exactly where they're going to go. They represent something perfect, maybe not too perfect, but an aim for perfection. You've got the house Negro. Now, people like to say that's me because I'm saying white people talking points or I'm upholding white supremacy or something ridiculous. The modern day house Negro is both Democrat and Republican. They work in the establishment. They profit off of the culture of chaos, the music. If they're Democrat, they'll sit back and defend the nigga behavior. If they're a black Republican, they don't live commonly in the black areas. They're completely segregated from the black area, which is fine in their own right. But they act as if they're the alternative, but they're unrelatable. They don't really represent the common black mindset. They represent an alternative world the running away, this nomadic, I'm going to go and live somewhere else instead of living in the community. That's a big problem I have with a lot of the black conservative, black Republicans. And I would say they're very pro-Israel as well. There's a problem with me as well I have with these people. The third is niggas, which represents the majority of the population of the black community, unfortunately. Niggas are loud. Niggas are very aggressive, hostile to even other black people. These are the people who bring down the name and our image as a people every day. And I would say niggers are the ones who are violent, the criminals, the killers, the murderers, the drug dealers in our community that promote a very chaotic and destructive environment for black children, black women, black men, the black family, and black people as a whole.
Now, that was Andre Williams. I've debated him on his page before, and he's a house nigger at the end of the day, because he does stand for white supremacy. He has no black employees. He provides no opportunity to the black community. He's just talking, right? And he has a side of black fatigue that is tired of the dysfunction and the degeneracy of the black community. So people aren't just tired of the dysfunction of black people, they're just tired of black people. And they have a hate for black people due to the system. That's one thing he doesn't talk about is the media, the education, the indoctrination of why people, even like being loud. Like, okay, what's wrong with being loud? Like, okay, there's certain things that you may say don't make sense, like blacks are late, right? I'm all for generalizations and looking at stereotypes. Blacks may be late, but what's the problem? Why are they late? You know, that's what he doesn't want to look into. He doesn't want to look into the fact that maybe they don't have a car. Maybe they only have one parent in the household, so they have to get dropped off. Maybe their car broke down because they don't have access to capital. Maybe, you know, there's various reasons on why they may be late. And what he's talking about is just like PC culture within corporate culture, which is white supremacy culture, and wearing what he has on, a European suit. How come he doesn't have an African suit on? How come he doesn't have an Asian suit on? How come he has European clothes on, European shoes? He doesn't think about that. He's just like, blacks, they dress with baggy pants, but it's like, look what you have on. You have on white supremacy culture clothing. You speak with a white accent. I speak with proper vernacular and grammar, but when you talk to me on the phone, you know you're speaking to a black person because I do have a black accent, even when I'm speaking with proper vernacular and grammar. So the other side of it is that the elite blacks that he speaks of are also tired of blacks. When I hear black fatigue, I think about me being tired of blacks that do stupid stuff like gangbang for no reason, and they have good parents and they do stuff like that. You know, like T.I.'s kids the other day, they got in trouble or they go to jail and do ignorant shit when they come from wealth and they come from private schools. See, to me, that's black fatigue. I get tired of blacks wanting to be with the stereotype or wanting to be a part of the culture that's precipitated to the masses that Universal, CBS, all these media channels, all the hip hop, all the major labels that make money off of these things, they want to be like that. That's fatiguing to me. It's like you want to sag your pants and be in a gang when you don't have to, and you don't even come from these environments. So when people are loud in public, when conflict becomes entertainment, when ignorance is celebrated, you know, criminality is glorified, this is fatigue to elite blacks or higher functioning blacks. So another thing is culture is not race. Race is made up by white people. There's no such thing as race. There's only one race. It's the race of humans. There's the race of humans. Race is created by white people so that they can control resources. There's culture. Culture and race are two different things. So being late isn't black. Being loud isn't black. Being violent isn't black. Being irresponsible isn't black. Those are behaviors. The danger comes when society mistakes behavior for identity. And that is what this young man is doing here. He's mistaking being late for being black as if no other culture has ever been late. Or he's mistaking violence for being black or being a nigger, when as if no other culture has ever been violent, as if you can compare what he's saying, a nigger is violent, the ones that shoot up the community, gang bang, etc. as if you can even compare that to the violence that white people have administered to the world. The solution isn't denying the stereotypes. The solution is producing so much excellence that the stereotypes don't even matter anymore. They just don't stick. So the question is, who will define black culture moving forward? Will it be the loudest voices or the most productive voices? Moving into our last segment, we talk about Karmelo Anthony, accountability, and surviving in a hostile society. The Karmelo Anthony case has created intense debate across America. Some see the young man as defending himself. Others see the young man as escalating the situation unnecessarily. Regardless of where people stand, one thing is certain. A young man is dead, and another young man may spend over 20 years of his life in prison.
What started as a dispute between two teenagers at a high school track meet has turned into one of the most talked about cases in the country. Now with Karmelo Anthony found guilty in the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf, the conversation is far from over. People are left with questions about self-defense, race, accountability, and the role social media played in shaping the public's opinion. Danielle, what is your take on this verdict?
It's just like, here we go again. And now we're in a world where we as black people can't even defend ourselves. And you have people like Mr. Chow and other people that are literally getting away with murder, and then you can't even defend yourself without going to jail and it not being counted as self-defense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, that's so frustrating. And then if the roles were reversed, there would be no accountability. Like, nobody would care.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though someone insults you, they push you, they start a fight, doesn't give you the right to like kill them. So this is like a very touchy topic that's been very viral within the black community, because of course, if the shoe was on the other foot, the white kid would have got off. That's obvious. The question is, what level of force is necessary? We need to get back to martial arts, putting hands on people. You know, I mean, fighting is illegal because you can also kill somebody with a strike and just fighting them as well. So it gets complicated, but at least you'll have a better chance besides pulling out a weapon. Even like Cyrus, he had a gun on him. This kid, Karmelo, he pulled out a knife. We can't really defend ourselves in these situations because we're taking force to the next level, especially against another culture. So technically, I truly am sorry for that family, but I don't feel like Karmelo should have pulled out a knife and stabbed him. I feel like he just should have threw hands, beat him up a little bit. If not, got whooped, or go learn martial arts, learn how to fight better. But don't pull out a weapon unless somebody else pulls out a weapon. I mean, that's the thing. Blacks are at a point where they're like, oh, this happened again. But it didn't happen again because we're not policing ourselves at the end of the day. So if somebody else is going to police us, right, and they control the laws of the land, you have to tiptoe around the laws of the land and the people that control the laws of the land. You have to create the laws of the land. First, you got to get some land. Then you have to get institutions. Then you could be accountable for what happens to children when they pull out knives and stab another child. But until then, we don't create the laws of the land. So yeah, you got to tiptoe around it. Yes, if the shoe was on the other foot, the kid would have got off. But it wasn't like that. We don't control the laws. We don't have the land. We don't have the institutions. So yeah, you cannot pull out a knife in a fist fight and kill a white kid and get away with it. One of the biggest mistakes our community makes is believing accountability equals disloyalty. It doesn't. You can acknowledge racism exists. You can acknowledge unequal treatment exists. But we can still say you shouldn't have made that decision. He still shouldn't have stabbed the kid. He should have just threw hands. And if the other kid pulls out a knife, now you can stab him. If the other kid pulls out a gun, now you can pull out a gun. I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes we get to the point where we're like, well, policing is unjust. Of course, we don't control the policing. We don't control the land. Of course it's going to be unjust. You have to get your own land, your own police force. Those forces were created to catch black men. The sheriff's department, CIA, FBI, whatever organization, they were created on their own to facilitate and basically manufacture crime. They need crime. That's how they make money. They get paid to house men in jail. That's how they get paid. That's a obvious thing. So you think they're gonna be just? Why are we even looking for justice? You shouldn't even be looking for justice. You gotta, of course, know that you don't create the legal system. If you see a white kid that's bigger than you walking into your tent at the track meet, just let him have it. Because you know your father doesn't control anything. What you should focus more on is controlling land, gaining access to institutions, and access to corruption at the end of the day, so that you can protect yourself, or you don't have to protect yourself, because people know that if I do hurt a young black man, or if I kill a black kid, or if I hurt him, that there's going to be repercussions. There's no repercussions because we don't have the land, the institution, and our own policing. What do we want black kids to get off for stabbing kids? What if it was another black kid? We want that kid to get off for, like, no. It just happens that there's injustices in the legal system, so we want to not be accountable for things that shouldn't have happened. Cyrus shouldn't have had a gun on him. He's a kid. Karmelo shouldn't have pulled out a knife. He should have just threw hands. And we should be able to police that. P. Diddy, whatever P. Diddy did, we should police him. If we believe he did R. Kelly, P. Diddy, any of that type of shit, if we feel as black people they did wrong, we should have a black jail to house them in. People hate Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan owns jails and they feel like he's adding to the system. He owns jails. I'd rather a black person own jail. I'd rather there be a black warden, a black sheriff. And I believe in policing, but I just believe in policing our own. When you go to New York, you go to Little Italy, the police don't even go in that area because the Italian mob, they police the area. And there's no crime really, because you'll get in a worse situation with the Italian mob than you would with the police. Our policing has to even be more strict than the police and outside communities policing us. Meaning that if we had our own black sheriff's department and our own black police and security sanctions, that means that this Karmelo kid would have even had 60 years. That's how you that's how you gain back your power, through accountability. We hold ourselves so accountable. Now, in this situation where we're holding ourselves accountable and a white child comes in and does this, now we can stand on business and actually say, no, that's not what's going on. Look, we put kids in jail ourselves that messed up. We actually police our community. Now you can be accountable. So the goal isn't just like surviving oppression. The goal is to build communities strong enough to eventually govern themselves. But that starts with discipline, accountability. Some may argue we've been disciplined. We've had accountability. We've been operating at an elite level. Well, it's not good enough. You got to keep operating at an even higher level than that. You can't look to your oppressor to give you justice. What kind of sense does that make? It's Heru Adamu. I'm going to see you guys on the next one.